Okay, so now, last but not least, we're going to talk about dividing decimals. So, again, there are a few rules that we just had to go ahead and talk about, and then we can power through some examples. So, one thing I just want to remind you guys, because again, it's kind of in the method, the vocabulary words, and I did mention I don't use them too often, so just for us to recall, the dividend is the number that will be divided. So, remember if we have, for example, 12 divided by 3, 12 is the number being divided. So that's what we will refer to as the dividend. And 3 is the divisor, the number we're dividing by. Okay, so the most important thing that we have to remember when it comes to division of decimals is we're still going to proceed with the same method of long division, but there's a super important thing to remember. So move the decimal to the right the same number of places in both the divisor and dividend until the divisor is a whole number. So what did all that just say? Is the number, so if we have a number divided by another number, the divisor, remember the number we're dividing by, this number has to be a whole number. So in order for us to continue with any division, we have to move however many decimal places are needed for this second number to become a whole number. But again, whatever you're going to do to the outside, the same reflection has to happen to the inside. So it's both the divisor and the dividend. And then again, just proceed with long division. So let's see what I'm talking about. Let's divide 5.76, so this is the dividend, by the divisor of 0.3. So 0.3, this is not a whole number. We need to turn it into a whole number. So 0.3, this is what we're going to be doing, is going to divide 5.76. Well, luckily in this case, we just have to move this decimal over once for us to get a whole number of just 3. But whatever you're doing on the outside, it has to be mirrored and the same on the inside. So that implies we're going to have 3, oopsie, dividing 57.6. And now let's just continue with the good old long division. So how many times does 3 go into 5? 1 time. 3 times 1 gives a product of 3. Carry on with the subtraction. 5 minus 3 is a difference of 2. 3 does not go into 2, but lucky for us, we have a 7 to pull down and help us out. 3 goes into 27 9 times. 3 times 9, oh, sorry, my screen's moving, is also a product of 27. And I want us to stop for a second. The decimal, the nice thing is the decimal will mirror as well. So notice 3 will only go, where's my laser? 3 will only go into 57 a maximum of 19 times. There's no way that now we're going to get some 3-digit number out of it because this here is also just 2 digits before the decimal. So in this case, the decimal point will mirror wherever it's going to go. So here we have 27 minus 27 is a difference of 0. However, be careful when it comes to these examples because we're not done yet. So don't think that this is a remainder of 0 because we still didn't even finish using up the rest of our number. We still have this 6 to work out. Once we use all the numbers, and if we get a remainder of 0, then we're done. So we still have this 6. 3 goes into 6 2 times, and 3 times 2 is 6. So let me move this up a little bit. So then we subtract it, and now we get a remainder of 0. So here we can see, therefore, 19.2 is our final answer. Okay, one more example. Now we have 0.12 dividing, oh, what am I doing? 86.4. But again, the divisor has to be a whole number. Well, how many decimals do I need to move it for it to become a whole number? 2, because then I'll get 12. So that implies then that we're dealing with, let me give myself some more space. I'm at the edge. 12 dividing, if I'm moving 2 decimals on the outside, remember I got to move them on the inside. So now notice this is an empty space here. We're going to put a 0 for it to be a placeholder. So now I'm going to be dividing 8,640. And let's go ahead and continue. So, excuse me. So now, let's continue with the division. 12 cannot go into 8, but 12 can go into 86. How many times we thinking? Well, 7 times. Oh, hello. 12, oh my gosh. Sorry, my iPad always acts weird on Zoom lately. 12 times 7 then gives a product of 84. And now we have 86 minus 84 gives a product of 2. 12 does not go into 2, but lucky for us, we already have this 4 to help us out. And 12 can go into 24 2 times. Well, 12 times 2 also gives a product of 24, which gives a difference of 0. But again, be careful, we're not done yet. We still have this 0, so don't confuse it yet with the remainder being 0. Once you use up all the digits, and then you get 0, that implies that you have a remainder of 0. But you got to make sure to use all the numbers that are underneath the bar. So we pull down this 0. Well, if you look at this, 12 is then going into 0. Well, how many times is 12 going to 0? 0 times. 12 times 0 is 0. And now, let me squeeze at the bottom, we get our remainder of 0. So therefore, our final answer, notice we don't have any decimal points. So 720. Okay. Story problem, and then we're all set. A bottle contains 32 ounces of medication. If the average dose is 0.4 ounces, how many doses does the bottle contain? So again, I mentioned this in the multiplication video. If you're a little hesitant on which operation to follow with, again, notice we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about ounces and a bottle. So that's two different things. Immediately we can take away addition and subtraction because again, in order to get the same thing, you have to add the same thing. Well, in this case, I want to know within that bottle, I want to divide up the 32 by the average dose amount. So I have 0.4 dividing 32. But again, what's the issue? This number has to be a whole number. So that implies we're dealing with, in order for 0.4 to become a whole number, I just have to move it over once. But remember, I have to then mirror that, excuse me, on the inside. So then this becomes 4 dividing 320. Well, let's continue. 4 does not go into 3, but 4 goes into 32 8 times. 4 times 8 gives a product of 32 as well. 32 minus 32 is a difference of 0, but again, you got to use up all the numbers. So we pull down the 0 here, and here we can see that 4 goes into 0 0 times, and 4 times 0 is 0, and now we get our remainder of 0. So therefore, we can see, remember, we need to make sure every story problem has a final answer. How many doses does the bottle contain? Therefore, 80 ounces of doses. So we need some sort of story problem. And that is it. So that is it for week 4. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, just send me an email.